In a cemetery in London, Maria attends her father's funeral along with the rest of her family, and during the ceremony, she notices that they are being watched by someone. However, when she looks again at the mysterious figure, she realizes that it has disappeared, and after the funeral, Maria prepares to listen to her father's will, where she discovers that she has received a large book as an inheritance. When they return home, Miss Lavendiska tries to console the girl, but she says she's fine, and the woman decides to leave her alone so that she can rest. Trying to understand why her father had left her only that object as an inheritance, Maria decides to start reading the book, which is entitled The Ancient Chronicles of the Moonacre Valley. The story begins in a time hundreds of years ago, on the outskirts of the Moonacre Valley, where a young woman with a pure heart walks quietly along the beach. Because of her great kindness, the woman has always been loved by nature, and one magical night, the moon presents her with its pearls, making her known as the Princess of the Moon. Sometime later, there was a wedding between the children of two great families, who lived in harmony throughout the valley. In honor of his daughter's wedding, Mr. William de Noir presented the couple with a black lion, and in return Rufus presented his new wife with a large unicorn, saying that it would be the only creature worthy of keeping the Moon Princess company. Excited by the whole ceremony, the woman decided to reveal her magical pearls to both families, and reveals that those precious stones have the power to grant any wish, be it good or evil. During her reading, Maria ends up feeling a strange sensation and decides to continue the book another time. The next day, the girl says goodbye to all the members of the mansion, because now that her father is no longer alive, she will have to live with her uncle in a town in the countryside. In the midst of all those goodbyes, Miss Lavendiska appears and says that after Maria's mother perished, she promised to take care of her daughter, so she will accompany her on her new journey. The pair then set off in the direction of the country town, and are indignant at the terrible quality of the road in the area. When they arrive, the coachman walks up to the gate, and while the man is looking for the right key, the pair are attacked by criminals, who try to pull them out of the carriage. Quickly, Maria and Lavendiska strike the threats, causing them to fall to the ground, and after opening the gates, the man returns to the carriage, without even noticing what is happening. As soon as they cross the passageway, the coachman closes the gates, preventing the criminals from following them. With that, the pair arrive at the great mansion, where they are greeted by Benjamin, who asks them to accompany him inside. In doing so, Maria comes across a ferocious dog sitting next to the fire, and the man reveals that it is Rufus, an animal that usually attacks everyone who crosses its path. Despite this, Benjamin explains that as Maria is part of the family, he probably won't attack her, and after the conversation, the host takes the pair to one of the corridors. At this point, he reveals that Lavendiska's room is far from the girls' quarters, which are located in the tower. After leaving Maria in her new room, the man leaves, and the young woman notices that the place is covered in dust. At the same time, the girl notices that the room has a small door, and when she opens it, she comes across a secret room, which is magically decorated and cozy, and even has a small fire. The next day, Maria eats the breakfast that has been left beside her bed, and soon after, she meets up with Benjamin, who asks her what that book is that she is carrying in her arms. The girl replies that it was a present left by her father before he left, but the man says that it belongs to the mansion and he needs to confiscate it. Outraged by what has just happened, Maria tells Lavendiska to sort it out, but the woman asks her not to worry, as Benjamin may just be trying to keep the book safe. Soon afterwards, the host of the mansion appears, and irritated by all the questions Lavendiska is asking, he orders them all to stop talking, as he wants to eat his breakfast in silence. Wanting to confront him, Maria asks why they were invited to live with him, and Benjamin replies that his brother perished after a life full of debt and cowardice. Thanks to this, taking care of the girl has become his responsibility, and angry at what she is hearing, the young woman orders him to take back every word he says. However, Benjamin refuses to do so, and says that although he was a great general and defended his country, her father ended up losing his life while owing huge amounts of money to countless people. After breakfast, Benjamin gives her a tour of his home, and the girl asks if they can't take some action about the thieves' attack the day before. However, the man says that won't be possible and explains that the criminals belong to the Noir clan. Upon hearing this, Maria asks if that is the same clan she read about in her book, but the man replies that in real life, those people are nothing more than thieves and looters. Later, the girl looks up at the magical ceiling of her room, at which point she sees a shooting star appearing in front of her. The next morning, as soon as she wakes up, Maria eats the cookies that have been left in the room once again, and soon after, she comes across a dress on her bed, but decides not to put it on. Minutes later, while walking through the mansion, the girl finds a piano covered by a large sheet, which seems to be playing by itself. Amused, Maria begins to play the instrument when she is found by Benjamin, who takes her outside, where he introduces her to her newest mare. The man then takes his niece to one of the villages in the area, and after walking for a few minutes, he tells her that they should return, as it will soon be dark. However, Maria tells him that she wants to continue her walk, and Benjamin explains that he can allow this, as long as the girl promises to stay within the boundaries of the Moonacre Valley and not risk entering the forest. The man then bids farewell to his niece, who begins to wonder what is so special about that forest that her uncle tries to avoid it at all costs. Curious, the young woman orders her mare to wait for her in the open field, and sets off into the depths of the forest, where she finds a hare caught in a trap. Feeling sorry for the animal, the girl tries to free it, but before she can do so, she is surprised and captured by a group of criminals from the Noir clan. At that moment, a black eagle begins to observe the scene and lets out its powerful cry. At the same time, Rufus appears on the scene, attacking one of the bandits and causing them all to flee. Relieved to have been saved, Maria thanks her doggy friend, and after saving the hare, she leaves the forest, while Robin and his companions run to find his father, who says he is disgusted by his son's stupidity. Sometime later, the girl returns to the mansion, and on noticing that his niece has brought the hare home, he reveals that it is a very rare species from the Moonacre Valley, and among the bravest creatures in existence. Furthermore, Benjamin states that since she brought the animal on her own, the girl will take full responsibility for it. Finally, the man orders the girl to stay away from the forest once more, and after the conversation, Maria decides to call her new friend Serena. At dusk, while watching the garden from her window, the young woman sees a kind of animal spirit running around the mansion, and minutes later, another shooting star appears on the roof of her room. Distraught by everything that is happening, Maria confronts her uncle, saying that they need to talk about the mysteries she has been witnessing around the mansion. The man then starts walking away from his niece, who tries to chase him, and suddenly Benjamin starts crying, asking her to stop asking so many questions. Immediately afterwards, the host leaves for his study, and so that she can calm the young woman down, Lavendiska asks her to sit down to eat her breakfast. However, before she can do so, the girl is surprised by Rufus, and realizing that the animal seems restless, she decides to follow him. Halfway down, the dog passes a large mirror on the wall, and Maria notices that the dog's reflection is none other than the great black lion she saw in her book about the Moonacre Valley. Despite being frightened, the girl continues to the end of the corridor, and after leaning against one of the walls, she finds a door that leads into a huge kitchen. Upon entering, Maria encounters Marmaduke, the chef of chefs, who possesses powers of teleportation and super speed. As she watches the magical being handling all his ingredients, the young woman tries to ask him a few questions, but the man only replies that magic seems to have returned to the Moonacre Valley, and asks her to continue reading her book. Confused, Maria says that her uncle has confiscated the object from her, and to help her, Marmaduke reveals that the book has been hidden in one of the corners of the library. Before her new friend left, the cook delivered a plate of dessert for her, and when she arrived at the library, she looked for the place Marmaduke had explained. Thanks to this, Maria finally manages to retrieve her book and prepares to continue reading. Back in the story, in the midst of the revelation of the Moonstones, both men let their greed get the better of them, and while the princess screamed for them to stop all this, Rufus and William de Noir fought over possession of the magical item. Feeling betrayed by the men's attitudes, the woman used the power she had been given to cast a huge curse over the Moonacre Valley, declaring that everyone would suffer for disrespecting the power of nature. Soon after, the Moon Princess revealed that in 5,000 moons' time, a new soul would walk through the valley, and if they didn't listen to her, everyone would be plunged into eternal darkness. Since then, the moon pearls have disappeared completely, and their location remains a great secret. Panicked by what she has just discovered, Maria runs to talk to Marmaduke, who confirms the whole story of the valley, saying that both families were eventually consumed by pride and hatred. However, there is still a way to break the curse, as long as a new moon princess, accompanied by a white horse, appears to return the pearls to nature and reunite the families. Due to the enormous amount of information, Maria begins to panic, and after ordering the man to stop saying all those crazy things, she flees. At dusk, Maria tries to sleep, but she ends up having a big nightmare, where she sees herself running through the forest while being chased by someone. When she wakes up, the young woman realizes that she has to get out of that place and begins to prepare her things, while explaining to Serena that Lavendiska will take care of her. As soon as the sun rises, Maria sets off towards the gates with her suitcases, and after fleeing the mansion, she runs through the forest. During her escape, the young woman begins to hear the sounds of creatures around her, and soon after, a mysterious voice calls her name. Without thinking twice, Maria decides to follow the source of the sound, which brings her face to face with none other than the Moon Princess, who asks her to follow her. The woman then takes the young woman to her hideout, where she has several animals as pets. Realizing that this is the same person she had seen in her book, Maria is surprised, and so that they can introduce themselves, the woman reveals that her name is Loveday. Soon after, the former princess walks over to her mirror with the girl, where she begins a powerful spell that allows the young woman to see the moon colliding with planet Earth, causing a gigantic wave of destruction. After witnessing all this, Maria goes into shock, and noticing the girl's reaction, Loveday apologizes. The woman also reveals that the girl's father had tried to flee the situation, but was unsuccessful, and so that he could protect his daughter, he sent her to the Moonacre Valley, because he knew that was where she belonged. Sometime later, the pair were talking outside the hideout, and Maria asked if she could ask Benjamin for help. On hearing that name, Loveday orders the young woman never to repeat her uncle's name again, and says that all she has to do for now is find the moon pearls, since no one knows where they are. The young woman then says that while the clan of Noir may have a safe where they must have hidden the gems, they need to find the key, which has been kept somewhere. At that moment, Maria remembers that she had noticed a strange object attached to her book, and when she investigates what it is, she realizes that the key has been with her all this time. Excited, the young woman asks Loveday to take her to the Noir clan's vault, and during the walk, the pair are watched by the same Black Eagle who had saved the girl the day before. As they approach the clan's castle, the woman becomes terrified and says she can't go back there. So Loveday flees, and realizing that she will have to act alone, Maria sets out to infiltrate the castle, hiding so that she won't be spotted by Noir's soldiers. After successfully entering the place, the girl hears Robin and his father talking, but at that moment, she ends up being captured by one of the guards, who takes her to their leader, who is also the owner of the Black Eagle. Now that he has finally captured his target, William de Noir recovers the key to the safe and Maria accuses him of being responsible for the theft of the moon pearls. However, the man claims that this is not what really happened, and after taking her to the monument of the first Count de Noir, he reveals that the vault has always been empty, since the enemy family has always been in possession of the precious stones. Despite this, William reveals that all this will soon come to an end, because as soon as the 5,000th moon rises, the pearl thieves will be punished for their actions, and the de Noirs will be able to celebrate their revenge. After this, Robin takes Maria to the castle dungeon and begins to mock the girl's behavior, who kicks him fiercely in a painful place. Furious, the criminal orders one of the guards to lock the young woman in one of the cells, and says that from now on, her only friends will be the cockroaches that are scattered around the place. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Benjamin notices the girl's disappearance and talks to Lavendiska so they can find out where she's gone. Hours later, Maria wakes up after taking a nap on the prison floor, and when she looks at the wall, she comes across the magical horse she had seen the night before. Realizing that she needs to get out of there as soon as possible, the young woman tries to climb up to one of the windows, but her dress prevents her, at which point one of the soldiers approaches to check on the prisoner. As soon as he notices Maria's dress hanging in the window area, the man is confused and enters the cell, approaching to find out what is going on. However, this was nothing more than a strategy on the part of the girl, who took off running as fast as she could, and after crossing the castle grounds, she sprinted towards the forest. So William sends his soldiers to capture the young woman, and believing that Maria would not enter the dense forest, the guards decide to set off in a northerly direction to look for her. Thanks to this, the girl manages to continue her escape, but after crossing one of the bushes, she ends up having a piece of her clothing torn off by the branches. Soon after, Maria runs to one of the forest roads, and hearing the Noirs approaching, she tries to lose them through the dense forest. At that moment, the young woman is found by Rufus, who takes her to the mansion, but at the same time, William spots the pair fleeing, and throws his helmet to the ground, feeling furious at having failed to capture the girl. When they see Maria return, Lavendiska is relieved, but Benjamin is furious and orders her to go to her room. Outraged, the young woman says that her uncle can't act as if he were her father, and realizing what he's doing, the man apologizes to his niece. However, the intruder is none other than Loveday, and when they meet again, the young woman scolds the princess for abandoning her like that. Trying to calm her down, the woman hands her a dress that belonged to the first moon princess, and after dressing, Maria sets off in search of the pearls with her friend. As they go downstairs, Loveday comes across the old piano, and together they begin to play the instrument. Soon after, Maria notices that the room has a mirror, and when she looks in the reflection, she sees the princess dancing next to Benjamin, her husband. During the dance, the woman reveals that she belongs to the family of Noir, and on hearing this, the man went mad and started breaking the vases around the room, saying that his wife had betrayed him all this time to find pearls. No matter how much he tried to explain herself, Loveday was unable to convince Benjamin and decided to leave. Now that she knows what has happened, Maria rushes to the painting of the Moon Princess and brings Lavendiska and Marmaduke to look at it together with Pierre, the mansion's butler. While looking at the painting, Maria notices that it seems to be moving, showing that the pearls are hidden in the forest. Without wasting any time, the young woman mounts her mare to set off in search of the moon pearls, together with Serena. Sometime later, Robin is walking through the forest, and as he approaches a trapped rabbit, he ends up being caught in Mary's trap. After freeing her hair and releasing Robin from the trap, the girl forces him to listen to what she has to say, using Rufus to frighten him. Realizing that his clan's actions could wipe out the entire Moonacre Valley, the young man begins to feel lost, and says he is willing to listen to her to understand what can be done. Meanwhile, Benjamin and Loveday receive fake letters from Maria inviting them to meet, but when they realize that the letters were sent by Maria, the man becomes enraged and sets out to confront the rest of the mansion's members. Realizing that the girl may be in danger, the group sets out to find her, guided by Marmaduke, who teleports through the forest in search of his friend. The problem is that the search is not proving effective, and the group decides to split up to cover an even larger area. On the other side of the forest, Robin creates a false trail to delay the search by Noir's soldiers, using the piece of Maria's clothing he had found earlier. Soon after, the young man asks the young woman what she intends to do when she retrieves the moon pearls, and she replies that they just need to be returned to nature. However, halfway through the journey, the pair notice that Rufus has run off into the dense woods for no reason, and ends up falling into a trap, at the same time as Robin is captured by his father's soldiers. As she didn't notice any of the traps, Maria is confused and sets off to find her dog, who is being teased by members of the Noir clan. To deal with the situation, William orders Robin to be taken to his castle, and in the middle of the forest, Maria begins to follow the shining horse, who guides her to the hiding place of the pearls. Before she can enter, the young girl is surprised by William, who tries to capture her and take her away, and hearing her friend's screams, Robin tries to free himself from the soldiers. So that they can keep the young man trapped, the other guards gather to hold him, allowing Rufus to jump out of the hole, and set off to save his mistress. At the same time, Robin takes advantage of the distraction to grab a dagger and escape, but just then, one of the soldiers fires at the pair, hitting Rufus. Despite having heard the noise, the young man can't find the dog and decides to continue his escape to rescue Maria. Rufus ends up falling to the ground as a result of his injury, and in a few seconds, he loses his strength, having given his life to protect the Moon Princess. On finding William, Robin threatens him with his dagger, and after being rescued, Maria sets off in the direction of the Moon Pearls with her friend, while they are pursued by members of the Noir clan. As soon as they enter the hiding place in the cave, the pair advance a little further to the center, where they come across a kind of dungeon containing all the Moon Princess's belongings. In a few seconds, the young men manage to find the precious stones, and realizing that the soldiers have found them, they set off to escape from there, using the pearl's luminous power to travel through the cave. Meanwhile, William observes the area on the cliff where he witnessed the wedding, and notices that the night of the 5,000th moon has finally arrived. Just then, Benjamin appears with Pierre and Marmaduke, and sets out to attack his enemy. At the same time, Maria arrives at the scene alongside Robin and interrupts the confrontation, saying that the greed in their hearts is what has led the valley to this situation. Finally, Loveday appears and tries to help Maria convince the men, but nothing seems to work and none of them are willing to declare peace before the other. So the young woman decides to put an end to the problem on her own and throws the moon pearls into the sea to stop the curse. However, the precious stones are returned to the girl, who tries to repeat the throw, but nature insists and binds the pearls to her dress. Realizing what she has to do, Maria walks to the edge of the cliff and jumps into the sea. Watching the scene, everyone screams for the girl, who lands in the water at the same time as all the pearls come loose from her dress. In a few seconds, Maria loses her strength in the depths of the sea, and at that moment, the moon creates a powerful magical pulse, which travels throughout the region. Soon afterwards, a huge tsunami with a fleet of white horses appears on the horizon, and as soon as the wave crashes into the cliff, Maria appears, being carried by a unicorn. Upon reuniting with his niece, Benjamin embraces her, and far away Rufus rises in the middle of the forest, where he returns to his form, revealing that the dog was really the Black Lion all along. Quickly, Rufus runs to the cliff to be reunited with Maria, who witnesses her uncle apologizing to Loveday after everything he has caused. Just then, the soldier who had attacked the dog appears and prepares to eliminate the girl, but he is surprised by Lavendiska, who hits him with her umbrella, knocking him down. Cheered up, Maria hugs her caretaker, and together the families watch the horizon from the cliff, knowing that from now on, the Moonacre Valley will never be in danger again. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.